never thought I'd be sitting at my own dining table, watching my husband of 15 years lie to my face, the crystal chandelier above us, the one my grandmother had insisted we take when we got married, cast shadows across Robert's face as he raised his glass in a toast. To family, he said, smiling at our guests, and to new beginnings. Our annual summer dinner party was in full swing. Robert's law partners and their spouses nodded appreciatively. My sister Claire shot me a questioning look from across the table. She knew something was off. I'd spent the day in a fog after discovering the documents in Robert's home office. I hadn't meant to snoop. I was looking for our tax returns to finalize my father's estate paperwork. Instead, I found transfer documents showing my inheritance, specifically the deed to my family's historic Boston estate, had been quietly moved into a shell company that Robert controlled. The Blackwell estate had been in my family for 4 generations. My great-grandfather had built it during the railroad boom, and it had survived the Great Depression, 2 world wars, and my parents' messy divorce. My father had left it to me in his will 6 months ago, along with a substantial trust. A trust that, according to the papers I'd found, was now nearly empty. "Sarah, honey, would you pass the salt?" Robert's voice pulled me from my thoughts. I smiled tightly and handed him the crystal salt cellar, another family heirloom. "Of course, darling." As the dinner continued, I maintained my composure while my mind raced. Robert had always handled our finances. It made sense, given his expertise as a corporate attorney. I'd trusted him completely. I'd signed whatever he put in front of me. After all, we were partners, weren't we? "We have some exciting news," Robert announced as dessert was served. "I've been working on a development deal for that old property Sarah inherited. We're turning it into luxury condos." The table erupted in congratulations while I froze, fork suspended midair. He hadn't consulted me. He hadn't even told me. "When did this happen?" I asked, struggling to keep my voice steady. "The deal closed last week," he said smoothly. "I wanted it to be a surprise." "It certainly is," I replied, taking a long sip of wine. After our guests left, I confronted him in the kitchen as he loosened his tie. "You sold my family's estate without telling me?" "I didn't sell it," he corrected. "I transferred it to Barrett Holdings for development. We're partners in the company." "Are we?" I challenged. "Because I don't recall signing anything about a Barrett Holdings." His face changed then, hardening into an expression I'd never seen before. "You signed the papers transferring your inheritance into our joint holdings 3 months ago. I never would have agreed to sell the estate. Which is why I didn't specifically mention it," he admitted. "Sarah, be reasonable. That place was just sitting there draining money. The development will set us up for retirement." "Us?" I laughed bitterly. "The company documents I found today list only your name." His eyes narrowed. "You went through my desk." "I was looking for tax documents," I said. "Instead, I found evidence that you've stolen my inheritance." "Don't be dramatic," he scoffed. "We're married. What's yours is mine." "Not legally," I said. "Not in Massachusetts, and you know it. That's why you had me sign those papers under false pretenses." "I did what was best for us," he insisted. "That estate was an emotional attachment you couldn't let go of. Someone had to make the practical decision." I stared at the stranger before me. 15 years of marriage, and I'd never seen this side of him. Calculating, condescending, controlling. "I want a divorce," I said quietly. His laugh was cold. "On what grounds?" "I haven't cheated. I haven't hit you. I made a business decision that you don't like." "Fraud," I replied. "You defrauded me out of my inheritance. Good luck proving that," he said. "Every document has your signature, your willing signature." That night, I slept in the guest room, my mind racing. Robert was right. I'd signed the papers. I'd been distracted, grieving my father, trusting my husband. Any court battle would be his word against mine, and as a successful attorney, his word carried weight. The next morning, I called the one person I knew could help, my college roommate, Melissa. Now a forensic accountant, she'd always been suspicious of Robert's charm. "I need to figure out exactly what he's done," I told her over coffee at a cafe far from our neighborhood. "And then I need to get my family's estate back." "The development deal hasn't broken ground yet?" she asked. Not for another 2 months, according to the paperwork. Melissa's eyes gleamed. Then we have time. Over the next week, Melissa helped me uncover the extent of Robert's deception. He'd been planning this for over a year, methodically transferring assets, establishing the shell company, and securing development partners. The estate was worth far more than he'd led me to believe, especially with the zoning changes he'd quietly lobbied for through his firm's connections. He's good, Melissa admitted, but he made one mistake. What's that? He underestimated you. I moved money from my personal accounts, the ones Robert didn't control, into a new account under my mother's maiden name. I contacted a divorce attorney recommended by Melissa, one who had no connections to Robert's firm. And I began researching Barrett Holdings partners. One name kept appearing in the documents: Martin Wheeler, a real estate investor known for flipping historic properties into luxury developments. According to my research, Wheeler was looking for investors to help finance the Blackwell Estate project before construction began. That's our way in, I told Melissa. I'm going to buy my way into the development deal. Under a different name, she agreed. He can't know it's you. I created Evans Investments, LLC, named after my grandmother's family. With Melissa's help, I prepared a business proposal for Wheeler, offering to buy into the development at a premium, with one condition. I wanted the historic main house preserved rather than demolished. Wheeler agreed to meet. As I walked into his downtown office, I felt a strange calm settle over me. I wore a wig, colored contacts, and glasses, a disguise that wouldn't fool facial recognition software, but would be enough for a man who'd never met me. Ms. Evans, Wheeler greeted me, extending his hand. Your proposal is intriguing, but why the interest in preserving the main house? It reduces the potential units by at least 15%. Historical value translates to premium pricing, I replied smoothly. The Blackwell name still carries weight in Boston. Luxury condos that can claim a connection to the original estate will command higher prices per square foot. Wheeler studied me. You've done your homework. I always do. Barrett won't like the change in plans, he warned. I smiled. Barrett is a silent partner. You control the development decisions, according to your agreement. He raised an eyebrow, impressed. You've seen the partnership documents? I make it my business to know who I'm dealing with, I replied. By the end of our meeting, Wheeler had agreed to my terms. I would become a major investor in the project. The main house would be preserved as a centerpiece of the development, and most importantly, I would have a seat on the management committee, giving me access to all partnership documents and decisions. Robert had no idea what was coming. Living with Robert while plotting against him required a performance worthy of an Oscar. Each morning, I'd kiss him goodbye, then spend my days meeting with my divorce attorney, working with Melissa, and communicating with Wheeler as Catherine Evans. Each evening, I'd return home to prepare dinner and pretend everything was normal. The development plans are moving forward, Robert mentioned one night over steaks. Wheeler wants to make some changes to the design. I took a sip of wine. What kind of changes? He wants to preserve the main house as a centerpiece, Robert said, frowning. Claims it will add value. I think it's a waste of potential units. I said noncommittally. Maybe he's right. The Blackwell name does have history in Boston. Robert snorted. History doesn't pay for our retirement. Is that what this is about? I asked. Our retirement? Of course, he said, reaching for my hand. Everything I do is for us, Sarah. I wish you could see that. I let him hold my hand, fighting the urge to pull away. I'm trying to understand. His face softened. I know your father's death hit you hard. That's why I've handled everything, to spare you the stress. His concern seemed genuine, which made everything more confusing. Was this the man I'd married? Or was it another performance? Had he always been this way, and I'd been too in love to notice? The next day, I met Wheeler at the estate for a site visit. Walking through my childhood home as a stranger was surreal. The grand foyer with its sweeping staircase, the library where my father had taught me chess, the garden where I'd had my 16th birthday party. All of it was still there, waiting. The structure is solid, Wheeler noted. Good bones. We'll keep the historical facade and key interior features but update the systems. The library stays intact, I insisted. The woodwork is irreplaceable. Wheeler gave me a curious look. You seem to know this place well. I've done my research, I replied smoothly. The library was featured in Architectural Digest in 1987. He nodded, seemingly satisfied. Barrett's representative will be joining us soon. He likes to check in periodically. My heart raced. Barrett sends representatives to site visits? Just one. The attorney who structured the deal, Robert Donovan. I needed to leave before Robert arrived. I just remembered a conflicting appointment. Email me the site reports and next steps. As I hurried to my car, I spotted Robert's Mercedes turning into the long driveway. I ducked behind a hedge, heart pounding, until he'd passed. This had been too close. That evening, Robert mentioned meeting Wheeler at the estate. He's brought in a new investor, he told me. Some woman with ideas about historical preservation. Is that a problem? I asked, loading the dishwasher. It complicates things, he admitted. But Wheeler seems impressed with her. Evans, I think her name is. Catherine Evans. I turned away to hide my smile. Never heard of her. 2 weeks later, the first partnership meeting was scheduled. I told Robert I was visiting Claire for the weekend, then checked into a hotel downtown to prepare. Melissa helped me perfect my Catherine Evans persona. Confident, shrewd, and nothing like the supportive wife Robert thought he'd married. The meeting was held in Wheeler's office. I arrived early, heart pounding beneath my tailored suit. Robert would be there. He would see me. Would he recognize me despite the disguise? Wheeler greeted me warmly. Catherine, good to see you. The others will be here shortly. I took a seat at the conference table, reviewing my notes. When the door opened again, I didn't look up immediately. Robert Donovan, Barrett Holdings, I heard him say. I raised my eyes slowly, meeting his gaze with the cool assessment of a stranger. Catherine Evans, I replied, extending my hand. He shook it firmly, showing no sign of recognition. My disguise was working, or perhaps he simply didn't really see me anymore. The real me. The meeting proceeded smoothly until we reached the topic of the main house renovation. The preservation costs are excessive, Robert argued. We should reconsider the demolition option. The preservation is non-negotiable, I countered. It's a condition of my investment. Robert's eyes narrowed. Your investment came in after the initial plans were approved. Plans change, I said calmly. Mr. Wheeler agreed to my terms before accepting my capital. Wheeler doesn't have unilateral authority to make those decisions, Robert insisted. Wheeler cleared his throat. Actually, Robert, I do. Your client's agreement gives me final say on design elements, provided they don't reduce projected returns by more than 10%. And preserving the main house doesn't cross that threshold, I added, sliding a document across the table, as you can see from these projections. Robert scanned the papers, jaw tight. I'd spent days preparing those numbers, working with a real estate appraiser to prove the historical elements would actually increase value. These projections are optimistic, he said finally. They're realistic, I corrected. The luxury market in Boston places premium value on historical properties. We've included comparable sales data on page 4. Robert looked at me with new interest. You've done your homework, Ms. Evans. I always do, I replied, echoing my words from my first meeting with Wheeler. After the meeting, Robert lingered. Where did Wheeler find you? He asked. I found him, I corrected. I've been watching the Blackwell property for some time. Any connection to the family? He probed. I smiled thinly. Just professional interest. Historic properties are a specialty of mine. He studied me for a moment longer than was comfortable. You remind me of someone. My heart raced, but I kept my expression neutral. I have that kind of face. That night, when I returned home, Robert was waiting with a glass of wine. How's Claire? He asked. Good, I replied. She sends her love. Interesting, he said. I called her this afternoon. She said you weren't there. I froze. I stopped by my hotel first. I was going to her place tomorrow. Don't lie to me, Sarah, he said quietly. Where were you really? I needed some time alone, I said, which wasn't entirely untrue. To think about us, About everything that's happened. He softened slightly. I wish you'd just talk to me instead of disappearing. Would you have listened? I asked. Of course, he insisted. I always listened to you, but he didn't. He never had. And now I was beginning to wonder if he ever would. The next partnership meeting was scheduled for the following week. In the meantime, I met with my divorce attorney to prepare the paperwork. Everything was ready. I just needed the right moment. That moment came sooner than expected. The next day, Robert left his laptop open when he went to shower. A notification popped up. An email from Wheeler with the subject line, Evans Investment Concerns. I shouldn't have looked. But after everything Robert had done, I felt no guilt as I clicked on the message. Robert, it read, after our conversation, I looked into Catherine Evans. Something doesn't add up. Her company was formed only 2 months ago, and I can't find any record of her previous real estate work. Are you sure Barrett wants to proceed with her involved? Let me know your thoughts. Wheeler. My blood ran cold. Robert was investigating me. I quickly closed the email and stepped away from the laptop. I needed to accelerate my plans. The divorce papers were ready. My new apartment was leased. My attorney had prepared a legal strategy based on the evidence Melissa and I had gathered. All that remained was confronting Robert and executing the final phase of my plan for the estate. I decided to do both in one decisive move. The next partnership meeting was scheduled at the estate itself, a walkthrough to finalize renovation plans. As Catherine Evans, I arrived early to walk the grounds alone. Standing in the garden where I'd played as a child, I felt a surge of determination. This place was my heritage, not just a development opportunity. When Wheeler arrived with the architects, I greeted them confidently. Robert was the last to arrive, looking distracted and irritable. Let's make this quick, he said. I have court this afternoon. We'll start with the main house, Wheeler announced, leading us inside. As we toured the rooms, discussing preservation details and modernization plans, I watched Robert. He barely glanced at the ornate moldings or hand-carved banisters. To him, this was just square footage and potential profit. In the library, my father's favorite room, I made my move. Mr. Donovan, I said as the others moved ahead. A word? He hung back, eyebrow raised. Yes, Ms. Evans? I know what you did, I said quietly. Excuse me? I removed my glasses and contact lenses. I know you stole this estate from your wife. He stared, confusion turning to shock as recognition dawned. Sarah? What the hell is this? This is me taking back what's mine, I replied. You're Catherine Evans? He hissed, looking around to ensure we weren't overheard. Have you lost your mind? No. I've found it, I said, along with the evidence of how you defrauded me. His face hardened. You have nothing. I smiled. I have everything, Robert. Financial records, email trails, witness statements from your associates who helped you set up the shell company. And now, I have legal standing in this development partnership. Wheeler will never believe you over me. He already does, I replied. I showed him the evidence this morning. That's why he agreed to this meeting, to see your reaction. Robert's face paled. This is insane. You're my wife. Not for much longer, I said, handing him an envelope. Divorce papers. My attorney will be in touch about the fraud charges unless we can come to an arrangement. He opened the envelope, scanning the documents with the practiced eye of a lawyer. You'll never win this, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. I already have, I told him. Barrett Holdings is being investigated for fraud. Wheeler has agreed to restructure the partnership with Evans Investments as the majority stakeholder. And the development plan now centers on preserving the estate while building only a limited number of luxury units on the outer grounds. You can't do this, he sputtered. I already have, I repeated. You taught me well, Robert. Always get everything in writing. Wheeler appeared in the doorway. Everything all right in here? Fine, I said. Mr. Donovan was just leaving. I'm still a partner in this development, Robert insisted. Wheeler shook his head. Not anymore. Barrett Holdings' stake has been purchased by Evans Investments, effective this morning. The paperwork has been filed. Robert looked between us, realization dawning. You planned this together. No, Wheeler corrected. Ms. Donovan, or Evans, rather, planned this herself. I simply recognized a better deal when I saw it. Robert turned to me, his face a mask of fury and disbelief. This isn't over. It is, I said firmly. Unless you want your firm to know how you defrauded your own wife and violated your fiduciary duty, I imagine the Bar Association would be interested as well. He stared at me for a long moment, then turned and walked out without another word. Wheeler gave me a respectful nod. Impressive strategy, Ms. Donovan. Thank you, I replied, and it's Ms. Blackwell now. I'm reclaiming my family name along with the estate. The divorce proceedings were surprisingly straightforward. Faced with evidence of his fraud, Robert agreed to a settlement that left me with the estate and my remaining inheritance. His reputation remained intact. I had no interest in destroying his career, only in reclaiming what was rightfully mine. 6 months later, the renovated Blackwell estate opened for its first public event, a charity fundraiser for literacy programs in Boston public schools. The main house had been restored to its former glory, with modern updates that respected its historical character. The limited luxury residences built on the outer grounds had sold quickly, providing the capital to establish the Blackwell Foundation. As I stood in the grand foyer greeting guests, I caught my reflection in the antique mirror, the same mirror that had hung there in my great-grandfather's time. I looked different now, stronger, more certain. Claire appeared at my side, champagne flute in hand. You did it, she said. Dad would be proud. I hope so, I replied. Have you heard from Robert? She asked cautiously. Not directly, I said. His firm opened a new office in Chicago. I think he's relocated. Good riddance, she muttered. I didn't respond. Despite everything, 15 years of marriage couldn't be erased so easily. There had been good times, real love, at least on my part. Sometimes I wondered if he'd always been planning to take the estate, or if the opportunity had simply presented itself when my father died. But those questions no longer consumed me. I had reclaimed not just my inheritance, but my identity and my power. Melissa joined us, resplendent in a blue gown. The developer from New York is here, she murmured. The one interested in partnering on the community center project. I'll be right there, I promised. As my friends moved away, I took one last look around the foyer, at the home that had nearly been lost, and the legacy that would now continue. Catherine Evans had served her purpose. Sarah Blackwell was back, and she was just getting started.